Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at Special Booster 1.5 version of the MaloMyotismon deck. So even though this card hasn't really done anything in Japan, that doesn't mean it can't be good in the English meta, and it definitely has a really interesting and unique build to him. So going over the deck, starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running one copy of Pagumon. So Pagumon is a pretty decent Digitama because it has this nice inheritable ability of when attacking, you get to trash the top card of your deck. So we definitely, with this style of deck, want to see very specific cards in our trash, so that way we can make some really powerful plays. And Pagumon being able to help us try to set up our trash is definitely really good. But if you don't feel like you really want to utilize Pagumon, then you could run one copy of Yamon and the deck will still just be totally fine. But the main Digitama of the deck is going to be 4 copies of DemiMeramon. So DemiMeramon is just an absolutely insane card. This card is super important and is a really powerful Digitama for purple to be playing around with, because it has this really nice inheritable ability of on delete, draw 1 card, and then discard 1 card. So this is just really powerful because it helps us dig through our deck faster and set up our trash more consistently, because we're actually putting cards from our hand that we want to get rid of or want to put into the trash. So this is just the best way we could possibly set up our trash and draw cards at the same time. So this card is just good. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gabumon. So this version of Gabumon is really good for basically all of the same exact reasons why I laid out with DemiMeramon. He has a nice inheritable ability of on delete, draw 2, discard 1. So again, this is just really good for getting the cards that we want to see by drawing, and then discarding cards we don't want to see or want to put in our trash to set up our trash. So this card is just really good for that. And if you pair it up with DemiMeramon, then you'll be drawing 3, discarding 2, and again, that's just really powerful, just because that's just a whole lot of draw and a whole lot of potential setup. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Tapirmon. So Tapirmon is really good because he has this nice on-delete ability where we get to draw 1 card. So again, pair this up with DemiMeramon and we get to draw 2, discard 1, which is again really good. But the main reason why we're running Tapirmon is because of his innate on-deletion ability, and it makes him one of the best fodder cards that we could utilize for purple. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Candlemon. So Candlemon can really be anything you really feel like. This is just like the flex spot, but I feel like Candlemon just being that value vanilla is just a good slot to utilize. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Vilemon. So Vilemon is just the blocker of the deck, not really much to him. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Devimon. So Devimon is really good because he has the retaliation ability, and he also has the inheritable ability of giving the retaliation ability. So retaliation is just one of the primary ways that we're going to be utilizing removal in the deck. So that just makes it Devimon a really important Digimon because he just has retaliation and gives retaliation. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Meramon. So this again is just another flex spot, and I'm just utilizing Meramon just because he has this really low evo cost of 1, so that way we could get into our higher stages that much faster and that much more efficiently. Next, onto the ultimates, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Kimeramon. So Kimeramon is just another really powerful removal card that we have to work with on a Digimon body, where he has this nice on-play ability where we get to delete one of our Digimon to delete one of the opponent's Digimon that's level 5 or lower. So this is kind of like a really good removal card, and he just also allows us to go up into our higher levels that much more efficiently, just because we are just slamming down a level 5, so we could just sit on him and then Digivolve up into a level 6 the next turn. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Arukenimon. So Arukenimon is one of the main combo pieces of the deck, just because it has a really powerful when attacking ability. So its when attacking ability is that we could pay 3 memory, and we get to play 1 MaloMyotismon from our hand for free, and then we get to delete this Digimon. So the whole point about this card is we're trying to draw into MaloMyotismon, and then Digivolve up into Arukenimon. Arukenimon swings, and then it's almost like we're Digivolving into MaloMyotismon, except we're not, because we just get to play it for free at the cost of losing Arukenimon. And then if we have stuff like Gabumon and DemiMeramon in its inheritable sources, then we're going to be gaining even more benefit because we are triggering the on-deletion ability. So Arukenimon is just an absolutely insane card for the deck and is one of the most important pieces of the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Mummymon. So Mummymon is a similar card to Arukenimon, where it's just another really important combo piece to try to get MaloMyotismon out, except it has a slightly different when attacking ability, where we get to still pay 3, and then we get to play a MaloMyotismon from our trash without paying its memory cost. And then we get to delete this card. So basically, the big difference is Arukenimon is from the hand, Mummymon is from the trash, and basically between the two, we'll always make sure that we could have a MaloMyotismon on the field at all times. And again, that's like the whole point of the deck, and it just has very high synergy with MaloMyotismon. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Lady Devimon. So Lady Devimon is another utility type ultimate that we're running. Lady Devimon is very, very good because she has a nice when digivolving ability where we get to draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards. So as I mentioned before, drawing cards and discarding is more important than just self-milling in order to see the cards that we want and trash the cards that we need to see in the trash. So that way it's just easier to set up. And then on top of which, she has a really powerful inheritable ability where once per turn during your turn, when you use an option card, we get to delete one of the opponent's level 3 Digimon. So she is trying to also act as pseudo removal for the deck and is still a really decent card for the deck overall. Next, on to the Megas. I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lilithmon. So Lilithmon really could be any other Mega that you feel like you want to run to support MaloMyotismon. I just felt like based on the cards that I'm utilizing, I think Lilithmon fits a little bit better than some of the other Megas, just because Lilithmon has this nice powerful when digivolving ability, where if we have 10 or more cards in our trash, then we get to return up to 2 purple option cards from our trash and add them to our hand. So the option cards that we're going to be running definitely combo with the deck and synergize with the deck a whole lot. So as a result, I just felt like I wanted to see them more, and I felt like Lilithmon was just the better card to pick for doing that. And then on top of which, she has a nice secondary ability where during your turn, once per turn, when you use an option card, we get to gain 2 memory. So not only are we going to be grabbing back the option cards that we want to utilize because they do combo and synergize with the deck, but we also get to reduce their cost, and that's kind of just the primary reason why I'm running Lilithmon. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the main man of the deck, which is going to be MaloMyotismon. So MaloMyotismon is a pretty decent Digimon, even though he does have a Digivolution cost of 5. Between Arukenimon and Mummymon, we're almost never going to be paying 5 for that. Most of the time, we're just going to be paying 3 to just slam him on the field in some way. And then on top of which, he has 2 really powerful abilities. So his first ability is he just has Piercing. So this is really good because it makes him want to attack into the opponent's Digimon. So that way he could delete the opponent's Digimon and perform a security check when that Digimon is deleted and he survives. So that's kind of like the big control aspect of MaloMyotismon is you're just going to want to try to swing into the opponent's Digimon to delete them and deal security damage at the same time. And then when you delete the opponent's Digimon, you'll also trigger his other ability where during both players' turns, whenever another Digimon is deleted, we get to gain 1 memory. This could happen on any of our other Digimon. This could happen on any of the opponent's Digimon. It's just whenever another Digimon is deleted, we get to gain 1 memory, and this isn't once per turn. So we could potentially gain a whole bunch of memory in a single turn depending on how the turn goes, and that's just really powerful just because we could do a whole bunch of different things with it. So MaloMyotismon is definitely a really decent card, especially with all of the different cards we have supporting him, to make sure that he's always on the field and he's always a constant threat. And then the last Megas I'm going to be running in the deck is 2 copies of Millenniummon. So Millenniummon is just the level 7 of the deck. He is basically the Omnimon equivalent for purple as of right now, and he's just in here for extra removal because he has a really powerful when digivolving ability where we get to return one of the opponent's Digimon to the bottom of their deck and then trash all of their evolution sources. So just because we are running a little bit light on ways to remove the opponent's Digimon, we definitely need to run Millenniummon, not only just because he's a large body and a big threat, but on top of which he does get rid of one of the opponent's Digimon, and that's really what we're looking to utilize the card for. On top of which he does have also a nice on-deletion ability, where if this card had any Digivolution cards in it, then we just basically get to revive him for free. So this combos really well with MaloMyotismon, where if we just have a MaloMyotismon and a Millenniummon on the field, and then they get rid of Millenniummon, then he comes back, then we are going to be gaining 1 memory off of his deletion with MaloMyotismon. So this kind of like applies to any of the on-delete abilities and self-sacrificing synergies that we have in the deck, where they'll just get deleted and then MaloMyotismon sees their deletion, and then we just get to gain memory from doing that. So MaloMyotismon is just really powerful in combination with Millenniummon, but again, Millenniummon is just another removal tech card for the deck. Next, on to the options, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Back for Revenge. So Back for Revenge is a really interesting option card, and it's a really hard option card to utilize for a lot of other decks, but it's a lot easier in this style of deck just because of what we're trying to be doing and how the cards synergize with one another. So what the card is doing is it has the main ability of giving one of your Digimon the on-delete ability, where we get to play this Digimon without paying its memory cost, and then we don't get any of its on-play effects. So basically this is just a self-reviving card where a lot of our Digimon are going to try to sacrifice themselves, and then Back for Revenge will just bring them back. So this combos really, really nicely with Arukenimon and Mummymon, where they will swing, play MaloMyotismon from somewhere, and then they'll delete themselves, triggering MaloMyotismon's ability to gain 1 memory after we paid the 3 for the swing. And then on top of that, Back for Revenge will then bring them back onto the field. So it's just a really powerful tech card to be playing around with for a whole bunch of Digimon, and synergizes really well with the deck. The only unfortunate thing is the fact that it doesn't have a security effect, so you do have to watch out for when it's in the security because it just won't do anything. And then the last option card of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Necrophobia. So Necrophobia is really good because this is the primary way we're going to be rezzing cards in the deck, and is really important for the deck just because it has the main ability of allowing us to play a level 5 purple Digimon from our trash for free. And then we don't get any of its on-play abilities. But obviously, the main intended purpose of this card is to bring back Mummymon or Arukenimon, so that way we could always try to play our MaloMyotismon from somewhere. And then making this cheaper with Lilithmon just makes it an even more efficient card to try to do that with, and it's just really good for the deck overall. And then the last 2 cards of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Matt Ishida. So the purple Matt is really good because he's the memory fixing tamer of our deck. So that way we could always make sure we have 3 memory. So that way we could always make sure we could pay the memory for Mummymon and Arukenimon's attack to just get MaloMyotismon out for 3. So that's just really, really important for the deck. And then on top of which, he also has this really nice on-play ability where we get to return 1 purple Digimon or purple option card back from our trash to our hand. So this is really, really important because it definitely allows us to pick what we want when we want it, especially if we're trying to set up our trash. So if we don't have a Mummymon and we have an Arukenimon on the field and we have a MaloMyotismon in the trash, then we could think about using Matt to just put MaloMyotismon back in our hand for Arukenimon's ability. So Matt's just a great setup card to just allow us to play our cards more efficiently. And then there are still a whole bunch of other cards that you could think about running in the deck depending on how you build the deck and what you're looking to gain out of the deck. So you could think about utilizing Gabumon just because he has this really nice ability where during both players' turns, they can't gain memory except by tamer effects. So this is a card similar to Chumon and Tapirmon where it's just trying to limit the opponent's options on how they're gaining memory. So that way it really limits their plays and it makes Gabumon a primary target of removal. And if they have to utilize removal to get rid of Gabumon to make their plays more efficient, then their plays aren't efficient because they have to get rid of this card. So this card's just another really powerful purple card to be playing around with. Then we also could think about utilizing Wizardmon. So Wizardmon is just really good mainly for his on-deletion ability of being able to draw 1 card. So that way if we build up a really good evolution stack that we want to utilize as sacrificial fodder, then drawing the extra card could help depending on the situation, setup, and other cards we're utilizing. Next, you could think about utilizing Kimeramon. So if the whole point is to try to get into our level 5, most of the time we're just trying to utilize Mummymon and Arukenimon, but if we don't see any of those options, Kimeramon is definitely a good card to think about just because he has an evo cost of 2 and he has a play cost of 5, so that way he's just a really easy card to just play on the field to get up into our level 6s. As some other support megas, you could think about utilizing VenomMyotismon. So this version of VenomMyotismon is really nice just because he has security attack +1, so he allows us to aggress onto the opponent's security that much easier and deal more security damage. And then on top of which, he does have another ability where during the opponent's turn, when one of the opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, then we get to gain 1 memory. So the whole idea is like with this card in MaloMyotismon is just you're going to be trying to manipulate the memory and trying to reduce the opponent's possible options. So them in combination with each other is definitely really, really powerful, because if any of their Digimon gets suspended, we gain 1 memory. If any of their Digimon gets deleted, we gain 1 memory. And again, that's just really powerful. We could also think about utilizing Pagumon. So Pagumon is just another great card just because he has the retaliation ability. So that way, if we need to utilize him as another form of removal, we can. And then on top of which, his on-play ability to res 2 level 4 or lower Digimon is still just really, really powerful just for filling up the board state. So that way we could start aggressing, defending, and utilizing all of the different tools we have available to us. We could also think about utilizing Mastimon. So Mastimon is another really good tech option where she has a nice when digivolving ability where we get to trash the top card of both of our security stacks. So she's acting as like pseudo burn. And then on top of which we get to res a purple or yellow Digimon that's level 4 or lower from our trash for free. So she's kind of filling a very similar role to Pagumon, except we have to digivolve up into her, which since we're playing a whole bunch of different ultimates, we definitely could. And then another mega you could think about utilizing as a good tech option is going to be the promo DemiMeramon. So this DemiMeramon has the really nice on deletion ability where we get to play a purple level 4 or less Digimon from our trash for free, and then we don't get its on play abilities. So the whole point is just to have consistent sticky bodies, and he does have an on-deletion ability, so we want him to be deleted, thus triggering MaloMyotismon's ability to gain us a memory. And then if we pair this up with Back for Revenge, then he comes back, and we could utilize his on-deletion ability yet again. So he still just has some pretty decent synergy with the deck, and he's a pretty decent tech card you could think about utilizing. Then some other option cards you could think about is Darkness Claw. So we are playing around with the piercing ability on MaloMyotismon, so we definitely want to make sure we could try to beat over the opponent's Digimon. And even though we're not playing with a whole lot of DP buffs, which is why you could think about using Yamon over Pagumon, but if we're just trying to play MaloMyotismon off of Arukenimon or Mummimon, then we definitely won't be getting the buff, so it doesn't really matter. So having the option of Darkness Claw to give a DP buff so that way we could hit over specific Digimon is still very, very good for the deck and is definitely something you'd want to be thinking about. On top of which, it has a nice security ability of gaining 2 memory, so even if it's checked in the security, it could still try to ruin the opponent's day by manipulating their memory. Then you could think about utilizing Heat Viper as another form of removal. So because we are playing with Back for Revenge and some other self-sacrificing synergies, then Heat Viper is definitely really, really good just because we get to delete one of our Digimon to delete up to 2 of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. So if we definitely feel like we want to run more removal, Heat Viper is really good because in combination with MaloMyotismon, if he's on the field, then we're going to be gaining 3 memory for being able to delete 3 things back, which is really, really good, making this card even more efficient to play. On top of which, if you have a Lilithmon sitting on the field, then this card almost could basically be free if it's your first option of the turn. So again, it's just another really nice option you could think about utilizing depending on how you build the deck. And then the last option to highlight is going to be Trump Sword, just because Trump Sword is basically the Gaia Force of purple. And we definitely still would want to try to run as much removal as possible if you're trying to play more into that playstyle, and Trump Sword is just a good removal option. So for the most part, this is just a really solid shell for the deck, and there's a whole bunch of different ways that you could build the deck depending on the types of cards that you want to utilize, just because his ability to gain memory and his ability to pierce are 2 very, very powerful abilities, allowing you to have a whole bunch of different ways you could control the field and manipulate the memory. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, I'll also have the deck list down in the description below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.